But right now, the mayor-elect of New York City, Zohran Mamdani, is speaking. I want to listen in to hear what he's saying.
Campaigning may have come to a close last night at 9, but the beautiful prose of governing has only just begun. The hard work of improving New Yorkers' lives starts now. That process begins with transition. In the coming months, I and my team will build a city hall capable of delivering on the promises of this campaign. We will form an administration that is in equal parts capable and compassionate, driven by integrity, and willing to work just as hard as the millions of New Yorkers who call this city home. And central to that effort is a transition team that is defined by the excellence New Yorkers will soon come to expect from government. Our team will be directed by Ilana Leopold, whose roots in this city extend back to her grandmother running the trams on Roosevelt Island. She has extensive experience in city government and has been a key part of our campaign to become the next mayor of this city. And it will be led by our formidable co-chairs, former Federal Trade Commissioner Chair Lena Khan, former First Deputy Mayor Maria Torres Springer, United Way President and CEO Grace Bonilla, and former Deputy Mayor for Health and Human Services, Melanie Hartzog. Over the coming days, we'll start announcing the leaders who will implement our agenda. People like deputy mayors, who oversee entire areas of government, and the commissioners who carry out the critical work of city agencies. Some of these people will have familiar names. Others will not. What will unite them will be a commitment to solving old problems with new solutions. We will cast a wide net. We will speak to the organizers on the front lines of the fight to improve our city, government veterans with proven track records, policy experts from around the country and the world, and working people who know better than anyone what their neighborhoods need. Throughout this campaign, I have worked hard to be accessible and transparent with New Yorkers. That same spirit will animate this transition and the city hall we build, because New Yorkers deserve a government that they can trust. And on January 1st, when our city celebrates the inauguration of a new administration, let us also celebrate a new era for our city, one that we all feel invested in and whose success we all work to achieve. Now, it is my pleasure to invite Ilana Leopold to deliver a few words. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Ilana Leopold, and I'm very honored to serve as the Executive Director of Mayor-elect Mamdani's leadership team. I want to thank Zohran for his faith in me, both on the campaign trail and in this next exciting chapter of his movement. As a third-generation New Yorker raised in Mitchell-Lama housing and
all right, we were just listening to Mayor-elect of New York City, Zohran Mamdani, day one here on the job, Jamie Gengel.
So, you know, one of the things I was thinking about as we were listening to him, he talked about the hard work of improving New Yorkers' lives, delivering. Now that he has won, it reminds me of the movie The Candidate with Robert Redford, where he unexpectedly wins and gets into the car and says, "What do we do now?" Everybody knows that Mamdani was charismatic, struck a chord, got people to vote who had, normally don't vote. The question now is, can he manage? And I think that's what you heard in those words
Let's
today.
not forget, this is the transition.
Right.
He's not going to be the mayor of New York City until, January 1st.
Correct.
He's the mayor-elect right now, putting together his not only his team, but his portfolio at the same time.
And I think people are really going to be watching closely who he surrounds himself with. Are these people with experience who know how to manage? And that will be the first test.
And Eva, what are your thoughts on this? Because that was one of the big questions. Will he be able to implement some of these sweeping promises he made on the campaign trail to lower the cost of living for the everyday American under the socialist ideology?
Yeah, the greatest test is if he is going to be able to deliver, but it will be really a boost for progressives across the country if he can, in fact, deliver on these policy promises. But he stepped to the podium today really looking like an executive. Last night was about the excitement and the momentum. And I think today is sort of a reflection on where he goes from here. But so much, Pam and Wolf, of how he got to where he did was this affordability and economic populism message. And I think that we're going to see this sort of Mamdanification of so many candidates that pivot and adopt that structure. As I was covering the campaigns, so much of the Republican messaging was steeped in sort of the culture wars. And I think that those are kind of over. I think that last night sort of proved that the conversation around trans children and how they're governed in public schools and that entire debate has kind of like lost its momentum. And that really now I think there's more of a focus on affordability, the cost of living, and we're going to see that from candidates across the board.
You know, I have to say that he's going to spend the next couple of months preparing for litigation. Litigation and I don't mean this to be tongue in cheek. But he already knows he has an attorney general in New York who has been battling with President Trump and this DOJ, a lawsuit totally unrelated to his own candidacy. He knows the litigious nature of Donald Trump and New York City. He also knows there's already a threat being made about withholding funding from the federal government if the people of New York chose Mamdani as their mayor. It's one of the reasons that Andrew Cuomo was somebody that he was saying you have to go with him because he wouldn't have those same challenges. Now, the people did not buy it, and it was their right to vote for whom they want. We have voting rights in this country for that reason, in a democracy. But now I have to think about strategically, what will that mean litigation-wise? Will I have to try to fend off or proactively try to ensure that I get the funding as a part of my city and state? Governor Hochul will look at the same things as well. So the next couple months are going to be the transition. Normally it's like maybe curtains in your office. Maybe it's the idea of who you want as your staff. The legal team surrounding this mayor will have to be worth their weight in platinum, not just gold, because there's going to be so many things thrown at them. And that's an unfortunate reality of where we are right now in politics, where every move you make as an elected official, you have to pay the political piper here in Washington, D.C., which is one of the reasons you've got the Supreme Court looking at things right now and protests happening, et cetera. So I'll be curious to see what his approach will be to that threat that was made from the President of the United States about that funding, what litigation he will do to try to practically fend that off, and then, of course, the reality of all you've described, how to get the job done.
But the political pressure will be there, though, for people to get in line, because Mamdani has won the affection of so many voters on these issues. And so I think it's no longer going to be sufficient for maybe more centrist Democrats or Republicans to stick their head in the sand and try to block him at every turn. They're going to have to work with him because of the demands of the people.
I'm going to push back on that a little bit and say in New York that may happen. I don't think this reflects throughout the country. Certainly we saw the races in Virginia and New Jersey. The, Spanberger and Sherrill, they are moderate with national security. When you're talking about these things, I think it's very focused on New York. I also don't think the culture wars are over yet. I think that President Trump sees Mamdani as a foil that he will take advantage of, and you may see other Republicans do it. And I think a big question about his success will be, can he now deliver? If he can deliver, if he can manage, if he can improve the lives of New Yorkers every day, yes, those things, may be true in New York. But New York is a very tough city to run. And so he has a big challenge. And I think Laura's point about these legal cases, this can become both all-consuming, but it's also going to take a lot of time.
Which is not to say that he can't be successful. And I think the people of New York have elected him because they want him to be successful. And it's their right to want it, and it's his job to try to carry it off. But I will say the blueprint that Trump has used about being unapologetically rejecting of the status quo and the normal vehicles to get things done, he might be able to employ it in New York, and they might have more in common than he thinks.
Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani in New York City answering questions. Let's listen in.
My message to ICE agents and to everyone across this city is that everyone will be held to the same standard of the law. If you violate the law, you must be held accountable. And there is sadly a sense that is growing across this country that certain people are allowed to violate that law, whether they be the president or whether they be the agents themselves. And what New Yorkers are looking for is an era of consistency. an era of clarity, an era of conviction. And that is what we will deliver to them. And I am looking forward to having conversations with Mayor Adams and his administration about the work of the transition to ensure that the handover is a seamless one and that it is one that benefits the shared work we all have to deliver for the people who call the city home. Thank you. Thank you. Everybody's asking too. I've made my intention clear to retain Commissioner Tisch, and I look forward to having conversations with her on that very subject. Last night, I spent time with my wife, with close members of my team, as we watched the results come in. I spoke briefly with Curtis Sliwa, and then I headed to address the thousands of New Yorkers that were there, waiting to hear of what this new era of government will look like. And that is always my focus. Not on the candidates of this past election, but rather on the people that are so often left behind by our politics, and I look forward to serving them.